So with that, the first thing I would like for y'all to do is, did everyone get an email as to how to log into Canvas? You are welcome. Oh, actually, first, let me talk about our agenda. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Here's our agenda, okay? As I mentioned, this is pretty jam-packed. It is split up into 3 hours. Our first hour, we'll just talk about some Canvas fundamentals, okay? And when it comes to, our dashboard, as we call it, and some of the global navigation and how we can begin to get around Canvas. And then we'll start talking about a course communication aspect when it comes to announcements and the idea of a rich content editor. We have this editor that is in, I will say, about 95% of Canvas. So we will start with the idea of an announcement as a course communication tool, but we will also be learning the rich content editor at the same time, okay? And so when we are learning this rich content editor, it's going to translate over into lots of other areas in Canvas, as we will see. And then when we get into the second hour, we'll get into this idea of what is a homepage and how we can use it as a landing spot for our students. And then we'll get into some course settings, some course content, and then into some gradable content. And then into the third hour, where we'll get into some course flow and delivery and with the idea of modules, okay? And then we'll start talking about feedback and grades, okay? And how we can begin to assess our students. Now, with that said, I've broken this up by hours. Some of these sections may be a little shorter than an hour, some of them may be a little longer, so just keep that in mind. Now, I asked a second ago, did you all get an email about how to access Canvas? I believe this came out from maybe last night or this morning as well, or maybe it was yesterday, on exactly how to access Canvas. So in the event you did not get that information, know that you access Canvas by going to your CUHSD staff portal, okay? So start in your staff portal, and then at the very bottom, there is a link to Canvas. Click on that Canvas link, and then log in using your single sign-on username and password. Now, I am not a CUHSD employee, so I won't be able to reset a password or provide any of that information for you. So in the event there's an issue, please reach out to an administrator there with any issues you may have. But this is how you begin to access Canvas, okay? So go to your staff portal and then go into the Canvas link at the bottom, all right? So if everyone can do me a favor and actually log into Canvas, okay? We need to do something very important. I'm going to be pushing out some content to you. So we're going to actually go in and create a course. So we're going to log into Canvas, and then we're going to see something like this, right? So you may have courses here on what we call the dashboard. You may not have courses. You may have some academic courses. But what we're going to do is we're going to come over on the right-hand side of our screen once we log into Canvas, and we're going to click on this Start a New Course button, okay? So we're going to click on Start a New Course, and we're going to give it a course name, and we are going to say Sandbox, okay, space, hyphen, space, first initial of our name, first name, and then our last name, all right? So my name is Kenneth Rogers, and so we will do K Rogers. So that is what we are looking for. Sandbox, space, hyphen, space, first initial of our first name, and then Rogers. I have a slide here, and then whenever you're done with that, right, after you've given it a course name, click on Create Course for me. I have a slide here just kind of giving you the outline of what we're looking for. So again, go into your dashboard, select Start a New Course on the far right-hand side. Yes, it will be a private course. So the content license will be private copyright. So just keep that as the default. So if everyone can do me a favor, if you have in Zoom, if you have the participants window open, all right, to see the list of participants, you should have a list of, I don't know what these are called. I don't know if it says yes, no, go slower, go faster. They're just sort of, I don't know, notifications for me to know. Click that yes button whenever you've created your course. Awesome, they're coming through. And the reason why we're needing to do this is because I'm going to be pushing content out to you, and I need to make sure everyone has done this, because if we miss anybody, they are not going to get the content. So I see I have one no. So the person who put no, are you just following along, or are you just telling me no that you're still working on it, or do you have an issue? Right. So what we're doing is we are going to our dashboard. We are clicking on Start a New Course. You're going to put your name. Okay. So we're going to click Start a New Course, and you're going to put your name. So it's your first initial and then your name. Okay. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a course for you. Spec, thank you. It's going to create a name. It's going to create a course for you and enroll you as an instructor in that course. So whenever you're in there, don't touch anything. So after you create the new course, it's going to create a blank course for you. Don't touch anything. We will work in this course later today. But what I'm going to do here in a minute is I'm going to push content for you. Alfonso's there. All right. So we've got, let me do this. Let me see here, 14. Got 14 courses that have been created. And we've got 26 in the room. So you are, if you are still working on this, because again, what I'm about to do is I'm about to push content out, and in order for you to get that content, we need to make sure this course is created. CUHSD, yes, if you have a question, go ahead and just put that there in the chat. I see you raised your hand. Please feel free to put that there in the chat. Rafael, Alfonso answered for me, but yes, go ahead and keep it private. All right, we'll give you all. So if you put CUHSD, let me do this. Let me see if I can find it. So I will go ahead and push that content out to you as Kush. I'm sorry, Samantha, I see your name now. And that way we have you on here. Now let me see here. Yes. I mean, just looking at this chat here. Y'all just hang tight for a second. Once you've created the course, I'll tell you where to navigate after that. Whenever as far as where it says private, when you click start a new course, it's this content license. It's this drop down that says private copyrighted. Just keep it as private, okay? And as for S. Gomez, you already know how to make a new course? Yes. I'm going to be pushing content out for us to work off of today. So yes, make this course with the word sandbox in the title. Okay, so again, sandbox with your first initial and your last name. That way I can push this content out to you. All right, let me check my time here. About 30 more seconds and it'll be at the 48 mark. So let me see how many courses we've got. 17. I will be providing the recording out to Emily and the folks up there, and so they will be handling that information. All right. Hi, Mary. No issues. What we're doing is we are just creating a course. So if you go to your dashboard real quick, go to your dashboard. Once you've logged into Canvas, click Start a New Course for me on the far right-hand side. Okay. Click Start a New Course. Title it Sandbox with the first initial and then your last name. Okay. And if you can just put there in the chat when you are done with that, and then I will start to associate these courses. As long as it has the word sandbox in it, that's fine. We just need to make sure it has the word sandbox. Dumer. You'll find Canvas in the when you log into your portal at the very bottom. Let me see here. So I'm just checking a couple things. All right. Just making sure some of these came across. And I promise y'all, this is the most tedious part of the day and the most boring part. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and associate these courses. I'm going to go ahead and save. Now, do me a favor. I'm going to click done. It's going to take a minute to sync. You're currently in your course, but click back on your dashboard for me. All right, that'll be the menu in the far left-hand side. Okay, so we're going to go back to our dashboard, and we're just going to talk about how some courses appear. All right, and you can also take a look at this at the Zoom video and just follow along with me as well. So when you first log into Canvas, this is how you'll see Canvas. All right, so this is your course dashboard. All right, this is where your courses will live. So that course you just created is here. In the event you have any academic courses that have already been created for you, you will see those as well. And so you will begin to interact with your courses from here. And now, a couple of things that I want to point out. Let's say this order doesn't make much sense to you, right? You want to see a certain order for your courses. Maybe you want, I want this client recording course to be up close to the front. All I have to do is click and I can drag and reorganize these courses, all right? But in addition to that, let's see, I have this Canvas training April 2nd and 3rd. I can come in and I can rename this, okay? So maybe this top Canvas training, April 2nd and 3rd, maybe this is going to be an algebra course for me. I can click this More Options menu in the upper right-hand corner of this course card. Now, let me just point out really quick, anywhere where we see 3 dots and these vertical dots in Canvas, that's what we call the More Options menu, okay? Now, so I'll be referring to More Options menus a lot today. So we're going to click the More Options menu, and notice I can give this a nickname. So maybe this is Algebra 2, and maybe I don't like this purple color. I can change it to this red color, and I'll click Apply, and then notice that it's changed this name to Algebra 2, and it's changed it to this red color. Also, this Learn image, this is set inside the course itself, okay? Now, we will look at course settings here in, I believe, the 2nd hour, where we can begin to set what this image is. Notice where we have Chandler and Joey here on the far right. We can set GIFs as well, which are just a little bit more engaging for our students. Sometimes, you know, students really love GIFs and the animated representation of our course. But we can begin to upload images or use a royalty-free image service to set these images. But we'll take a look and see how we can begin to set these here in a little while. Also, here at the very bottom, we have these icons where we can see some activities. So there's a discussion that happened in that course. Here is an announcement. So I've got 2 announcements in that course where I can go in and actually view the information that's occurring. In addition to modifying some of this information on the course cards themselves, at the very top of this page, we have a More Options menu as well, because you may not like these colors. You may want to change the colors of, take off the colors, right? So you want to click on this More Options menu and take off this color overlay. Now notice I have a better representation of these images, and this is a user specified setting, okay? So you can't specify for your students what they see. That would be a user specified setting. Now, you can also see over here on the far right-hand side that you have this coming up area where I can see items that are coming up in my courses and begin to, these are links actually, where I can go ahead and navigate into those individual areas. Now, another important thing that I like to change when it comes to my individual account is giving it an avatar, right? An image representative of me, okay? So I'm going to click on this account area within my global navigation. This blue bar over here is called my global navigation. And I'm going to go into settings. Notice currently I have this image where it just shows this little outline of a person. Well, whenever I make an announcement in a course, it'll just give my initials, okay? It'll just say KR. Or whenever I give students feedback and comments in Speed Grader, which we'll take a look at in the 3rd hour, it'll just give them my initials as well. Well, maybe I want them to see my picture at the same time. As I hover over this, notice I get a little edit pencil. When I click on this edit pencil, I can actually upload a picture, right? Or I can choose to take a picture if I don't have a picture on my computer. But I'm actually going to go ahead and upload my headshot. Go into my pictures. There's my personal, there's my headshot. So to upload the picture, and I just choose how it's going to be cropped. Notice it's already giving me the circle and letting me know. And I'll just click save. Give it a second to load. If I refresh my page, it should be there. Let's see here. Oh, it's hanging up on me. But that is how you would change your picture. It'll eventually populate there, I promise. So you can come in and you can go ahead and edit the your profile picture. Now we'll look at some of these other areas later today, but one important area that I do want to point out is this help menu, okay? When we click on the help menu, this gives us links out to some very important areas within the Canvas area. One of those is the Canvas community, okay? So this top one is just a resource for you on conferencing guides for remote classrooms. But then you also have the ability to search Canvas guides. And I'm going to go ahead and open this up in a new tab. We have guides available for Canvas. So as we look at the Canvas guides, for example, we open up that link. Now we're going to click on Canvas guides. Notice that we have just general getting started guides. We have a full documentation team that updates our guides as we update Canvas. So this information is not going to be outdated. As every time we update Canvas, we will update our guides as well. We also have instructor guides. So as you depart from here, maybe you have additional information, maybe you're learning a new tool, you can click on the instructor guide and we'll go look at it. And notice that it has a table of contents that then as you maybe want to learn about modules, it gives you all of the resources on modules, all right? But then we also have student guides, which are great for providing your students information. But then it's also great for you to be able to see information as to how your students interact within the courses as well. Let me go ahead and get out of these. We also have this Canvas 101 for you inside your instance. Now, this will take you to a course called Growing with Canvas, where it's a chance for you to enroll as a student in order for you to gain additional information about Canvas. So enhance the knowledge that you learned today, as well as maybe learn new tools. So you can use the guides as you're wanting to maybe explore something, but then also further that knowledge with this Canvas 101. You also have the ability to report a problem. If Canvas misbehaves, tell us about it, right? I like that verbiage about Canvas misbehaving. So whenever there's a problem within Canvas, please tell us. We have a full support staff that's employed by Canvas. They work in Utah. We're not outsourced. So go ahead and tell them about it, right? So you just click report a problem, give it a subject, tell us what's happening, and then you have this, how is it affecting you, okay? And so just a casual question all the way down to extremely critical emergency, all right? And so as opposed to rating it, on a scale of 1 to 5, just let them know how it's affecting you. Now, keep in mind, you can't actually upload something into here, so you would need to use something in order to host any kind of screenshot, so just keep that in mind. You also have your training services portal. Now, this training services portal is actually managed by our team, where we go in and we have courses and videos and training pathways that are available to you, where you can just expand your knowledge, okay? Maybe as you want to learn about a specific tool or area, you can take that training pathway. But then we also have a very good, interesting, Sonia. That's very interesting. I have a link at the very end where I'm going to give you as to how to enroll into that course. Um, we have a course inside the training services portal where it's about preparing to launch. So it's about taking your traditional brick and mortar classroom and you're wanting to launch it online. So it's about 40 minutes in length and just gives you some resources as you are preparing to go online. So those are just a few of the very important areas within the global navigation. As I mentioned, some of these other links we're going to come back to as time permits today. But what I'm going to do now is I am going to actually check one more thing over here, just to make sure no additional courses have come across. Yep, there were 2 more that came across. So let me go ahead and associate these courses. Sorry, I just want to push this content out. So by now, everyone, whenever you go into your course that you created, so on your dashboard, if we go back to our dashboard, you should have that sandbox course you created, all right? So it should say sandbox or sandbox with your initial and name, all right? Go into that sandbox course for me, and it should look something similar to this. Samantha, how do we delete a course? I don't know the permissions that you all have set at your district, but do you have access to the Google Sheet for posting questions in there? If you have access to that Google Sheet, throw that question in there, because I don't know if we'll have time to talk about how to delete a course today. And either someone will address it on that Google Sheet or I will follow up with it with a video. So I associated those, everyone who, thank you, Nicole. I appreciate that. I associated everyone who created a sandbox course at the beginning today. I went ahead and pushed out some content to you, all right? So with the magic of Canvas, we should all have something that looks similar to this, right? Mine will be a little bit different, but Alfonso, you did not get it. Interesting. Did you title your course Sandbox? Yes. All right, let me go in here. Hold on, y'all. I'm sorry. Did you refresh your page by chance? Are you still in there? Did you refresh your page? Interesting. All right. Everyone else just hang tight for me really quick. Just want to check one thing really quick. Did anyone else happen to not get who did create an account, but did not get the content? Sonia, Samantha. Check one thing. Yes. If your screen looks like mine, then you got the content. Let me just see something really quick. Sorry, y'all. So Alfonso, can you do me a favor and create the course one more time? Because I don't see the course that it got created. Let me see. Chin. Yeah, same with you, Sayuri. I don't see your course either. So I tell you what, why don't y'all let me know when you created it? And Alfonso, are you an administrator by chance? No. Okay, interesting. You have me stumped, Alfonso. All right. So just let me know whenever you have it done, and then I will associate it and see. Okay. Let me see. And you titled it Sandbox, and it's still not coming out. Okay. To it. Let me do one more thing, and then if I can't find it, we will just have to keep on trucking, and then I'll see if I can get you this content at the end. Yeah, for some reason, it's not creating the course for you, Alfonso. So I can't even find it at all in the system. So we will just, he does not have to publish it, no. So whenever we get to the end, I will see about getting you this content. I'm just making a note for that. All right, let's see here. All right, so I apologize, but just for the sake of time today, if you don't have a course, if you don't have this content and you need it, when we get to the end today, we will just hang around and we will work through it, and we will see if we can get you this information, just because this template you will want to use as we are modifying our content, okay? And so you'll want this information, okay? So if you don't have this content, just follow along and watch for the rest of the couple of times, but for the couple of hours, but we'll work at the end today and see if we can find this information for you all. If all else fails, I can just manually create courses for each of you that don't have this information, because for some reason it looks as if I can't find courses for Alfonso, I know for sure, but for the rest of you, we'll see what we can do. So with that said, now I'm in this course. I mentioned that we were going to start off by a course communication aspect, right? And learning the rich content editor that's in about 95% of the tool, right? And so this rich content editor that we're about to see, we are going to learn it in the announcements tool, but when we learn it there, we're going to have access when we do discussions, assignments, quizzes, pages. We're going to have access and know it and be able to modify it there as well. So to get to our announcements, we're going to click on this announcements link over here in our course navigation. Okay, so we over here on where it says home all the way down to settings, go ahead and this is our course navigation. Okay, I'm going to refer to the course navigation quite a bit today, but this is what we call our course navigation, home all the way down to settings. All right, but to get to announcements, again, we're going to click on the word announcements. Now, with the template that I pushed out to most of you, right? We did have some hiccups, but for the most of you, we do have a templated announcement as well. So we can take a look at that. And here is just some information, right? Now we have some guides, right? And so here's a guide that will go out to the community, just to give you some information on announcements. Notice we have a YouTube video that's been embedded here as well. And so just as you may want to use this information or not, you can just copy and paste this, okay? If you want a template for this for future announcements. Now, I do suggest you coming up for more options and deleting this announcement, okay, before your course starts, but you do have this templated announcement. Now, to start with announcements and this rich content editor, we're going to click on the plus announcement tool button up here at the top to start with the tool. To start off with just about everything inside Canvas, you have to give it a name. This says topic title. And so I will just give mine a name that says upcoming class meeting on Zoom, right? So I'm going to be meeting with the students. That's my plan. And we're going to be using Zoom. And the best way that I'm going to see fit to communicate with them is going to be on Zoom, right? And so I'm going to be communicating this via my announcement. One thing I do want to point out, when you get into this rich content editor, as you are working in here, notice these dots right here. This is just to give you some more vertical real estate as you are working. So you can click and drag that down. I have some information here that I'm going to put in my announcement, right? So I might want to relay some of this information to my students, all right? Although I'm going to change the time because for me, 10 a.m. has already passed. We'll say 2 o'clock p.m. I can come in and I can format this text, right? So Zoom meeting on Friday. I can change the size. I suggest if you're changing size, do it organizationally by paragraph text, okay? And so by default, the title up here will be a heading 1, and then you have a heading 2, and then you just organize your text like an outline, all right? You can also come in and you can bold this. You have the full suite of basically word processor, right? Type formatting available to you. But where I'm going to live today is really in these 4 tools, and then I'm going to bring in that tool right there. So let's start off by just looking at these 4 tools. This first one is putting in links to our system, all right? And so I noticed that right here I have a link. So I can make this a link, right? So this is a link to a Zoom meeting, all right? So I can come in and I can make this a link if I want to, but what I'm actually going to do is instead of making the URL a link, I'm going to make the word Zoom a link, all right? So I'm going to take this and I'm actually going to cut that and I'm going to make the word Zoom a link. So to do that, I'm going to click on this little chain link right here, this little icon. I'm going to click this drop down and I'm going to click external links and notice that it says my text is going to be Zoom and I'm just going to give it the link. And that's going to be the external link for Zoom, all right? Now, I did mine, right? So this is an announcement for my students informing them that we're going to meet on Zoom, giving them the link to Zoom, but because this rich content editor is throughout most of Canvas, we can go ahead and give them the link to anything. So National Geographic, a news resource, any kind of external simulation tool that we may be using. We can go ahead and give them those links as well, all right? So we can provide those links. Now, In addition to the external links, we also have course links, all right? So notice that I'm telling them we're going to talk about this plot analysis assignment. I actually have a course link for this plot analysis assignment. Now, you don't have this link. I do. But what we're going to do is we're going to click this drop down, and this time, instead of choosing external links, I'm going to choose a course link, all right? So notice I have these areas where it shows content that we will build in our courses, okay? But then we also have our course navigation. So this will replicate what we have over in the far left-hand side, our course navigation like we talked about. So if I wanted to give students a link to our course navigation, right? If I wanted to say go to modules, for example, we can give them a link to that. But this is telling them upcoming plot analysis assignment. I'm going to go ahead and click this drop down for assignments. Give it a second, and I'm going to find my plot analysis assignment. And I'm just going to click on it, and that'll give them a link to the assignment itself. So I'm telling them, hey, we're going to meet on Zoom, and this is what we're going to talk about. All right? And so when they're viewing the announcement, all they have to do is click on the link for the assignment and say, oh, this is what we're going to talk about. Well, then, and this is what's going to be expected for me in my my assignment. All right, that's great to know. Now, we also can give them some visual information here as well. So I'm just going to come down. I'm going to give me some space here. We can begin to embed images as well. So I'm going to click this drop down and notice that we can upload images into Canvas. All right. So we're going to click upload images, and we have a couple of options that are available to us. We can upload an image from our computer. We also have Unsplash, all right? We can search for an image, so we'll say, we'll just plot analysis, we'll say book, we'll hit enter, and we can find royalty-free images that are available to us, okay? And so we can easily just click one of these images, and it'll embed it within our rich content editor for us, all right? So those are just royalty-free images that if you don't have an image, you can go ahead and go out and grab one to give some visual breakups to the for the page itself. Now, you can also upload an image from your computer. So let me see, I should have a picture on here. I've got a picture of a book. So there is my book. I'm just gonna click submit, and that's how we can embed an image into our content editor. Give it a second, it's going to populate. Now we can click on this, and we can click on options, and we can provide some alt text for this image. We'll say open book, all right? So now this will say whenever a screen reader is coming in, it'll say this is an image of an open book, okay? And we'll just click done. And now we have our alt text set for our image, okay? So again, just providing some visual information for our students, all right? Now, we can also add media to this as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and just give me some space. If we click this next icon over, right, this is our, one of my favorite tools, and this is the ability to upload and record media, all right? So when I click this, notice I can upload a media file that I have on my computer, okay? So in the event I have a video that I want my students to see, I can go ahead and click on this, and it'll embed it within my my page here, all right? Now, I can also record. Now, the first time you do this, it'll ask you to allow access to the tool within the rich content editor. This is live, this is real, but I love this for engagement purposes, especially in discussions where you have the rich content editor and within the announcement tool. So I can just, I can do an audio only. So if I come over here to webcam, I can turn off my video and give them audio only. But what I love is I can do something like this, right? Hey class, we're going to have a virtual meeting on Friday at 2 o'clock. Please join me via Zoom. The link's there in the announcement. We're going to be discussing our upcoming plot analysis assignment. View these guidelines that I've linked as well, and let me know if you have any questions. So you just click save, and it'll embed this video into the announcement for the student as well. Again, you have access to that media uploader tool anywhere where you have the rich content editor. Give me a little bit more real estate here. Now, this next item over is the ability to upload a file, okay? Let's moving things around. We're going to click and drag this around where I want it. All right. So we're going to view, I say view the guidelines before the meeting. All right. So maybe I want to give them access to a file. All right. I'm going to go ahead and click on this next icon over, this little file icon, and click, and I'm going to upload a document. All right. So I can drag and drop a file here, but I'm just going to click and I'm going to get a document here. Here's my plot analysis. So I'm going to click and upload this plot analysis document. All right. I'm just going to click submit. And let me show you what this looks like. I'm going to go ahead and click save on my announcement. So this is what my announcement currently looks like. All right. So students have access to the picture. All right. They have the information. There's my Zoom link. I'm giving them a link out to the plot analysis assignment. When I click on that, it takes them directly to the assignment itself. And then also I've given them access to this document. All right. So if they click on this, they can download that. But, you know, part of the problem, in my opinion, with uploading a file directly, right? So I've uploaded this document, given them access to this document, is that this is a static document, all right? And so if I make changes to this, right, I have to come, I have to remove this link, I have to re-upload the file, and, you know, it can be a little bit of a pain, right? So I think we should work smarter, not harder. So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to remove this link. And instead, I'm going to come over to my little plug right here. This is where we have some external apps that are available in our system, because I have that same document as a Google Doc. All right. So I'm going to click on my apps and I'm going to click on Google Apps. Now, the first time you do this, you will have to authorize access to your Google Drive. And notice that under my content here, I have that same plot analysis. Now I can click link, and notice that it'll give students a link to that document. Or, let me give some space here, I can do the same thing, and this time, give it a second, I can click embed, and it'll actually embed the file within the rich content editor. All right. So this will give students a read-only access to this document. Because I am the owner of this, I can come in on this page and I can edit this. All right. And so it'll give me permission to come in and modify this as well. And so, you know, just embedding this for the students, and then no matter where I have this document, right? So if I'm teaching multiple courses, if I'm using this in other areas, I can go ahead and modify it in one spot and it'll be updated everywhere, all right? Some items that you have down here at the bottom are the ability to attach files. So if you don't want to, you know, link it here in the document itself for announcements, you can go ahead and attach files to the whole announcement. You can also delay posting. This is one of my favorite features of the announcement tool. When we delay posting, we can say that maybe I'm doing my weekly announcements, right? Maybe I'm, because we're, you know, my wife is an elementary teacher, so I know that K-12, you all always work on the weekends, right? So maybe I'm working on Saturday, and I'm saying, you know what, I don't want this announcement to go out till Monday. I want my students to see it Monday morning at 8 o'clock a.m. This is when I want them to see it. So we'll say done. And so now this posting won't go out to my students until Monday morning. All right. I can also allow students to comment or not. And then also another feature that I like is the ability to allow liking. Okay, so this will give students the ability to like your posts. That can be sort of a gamification aspect, and give you the ability to, say, I'm going to post 3 different topics, right? You like which one you want to discuss. Whenever you have an announcement in place and have it exactly how you want it, I'm actually going to delete this. I don't want to embed mine. I just want to give them the link. All you got to do, actually, I'm going to take off delay posting so we can see it here in a minute. I'm going to click save. All right, so this is what my announcement's going to look like for my students. All right, so when they come in, they'll click on announcements, and then they will go ahead and see this information. Also, I see a lot of questions coming in the chat. Just a reminder, I don't know if you were here at the very beginning or not. Some questions I'll be able to address in line, some I will not be able to. So there is a Google Sheet out there that was emailed out by Emily this morning. If you throw those questions into the Google Sheet, either someone will address those questions from Campbell Union. They will address those questions, or I will do a follow-up video at a later date and give you all some additional information as well. So just keep that in mind. So let's go back to our home. Now I want to talk to you with the idea of a home page. All right. So when I think about a home page, so right now, if things went, for those of you who it worked out well for, right, that you got the content, you have access to this information, right? And so you have this homepage template where we are giving students access to a number of areas in our courses. So we're giving them these buttons down here where it's saying, you know, take this to about your teacher, the discussion, as well as the modules. We're giving them even access to the mobile guides for our Canvas student app, and saying, hey, if you're using this on a mobile device, you might want to take a look at these guides for additional resources. But in a minute, we'll come in and we will edit this page. But I just want to say that when I think about a home page, it's all about providing that functional navigation for the students, right? It's that landing spot, that launch pad for the students where they come in and it's a visual representation of the course. You have this course image header that is been provided to you. And it's just kind of saying, hey, this is your course. We'll take a look here in a minute how we can change that. But, you know, it's a launch pad. But also by using this template in your courses, it provides a sense of familiarity for the students. So no matter the course that they're in, they'll know that they'll have this information. And then they will be able to see all of this information for their courses and begin to navigate throughout there. Now, when it comes to editing this page, with a lot of areas within Canvas, you have an edit button, all right? So you just click on this edit button. And again, we can click and drag down and give us some more real estate. Now, the first item that we want to change is where it says place course title here, okay? So again, because this template came across with us, we want to change our course title, right? So I'm just gonna do something like this. I'm just gonna say Campbell Union Training, and then I'm gonna put my name, Mr. Rogers, all right? And so this is where you can put in, you know, your course information, what you're teaching, who you are. That way, when students come in, they'll be able to easily see the information and know what course they're in, right? Maybe they've clicked on the wrong course, but just by that little header information alone, they can see the information, all right? Now, we have this header, all right? We may want to change this out. We may want to make it personal for our course. Maybe we have something that we want to use. I'm just going to click on this image, and I'm going to click back where we where we uploaded the image earlier. I'm going to click on Upload Image. I'm going to click, and I've got an image. I believe it's under my pictures. Yeah, it's header. I'm going to click Submit. And notice that's replaced this image for me. Now I'm going to click on the image, and I'm going to click on Options. You notice that it gave it some funky sizes for me. I'm just going to change this to one. Oops. Clicked out of there. I'm going to give it a custom size, and I'm just going to say 1000. And I'm going to click Done. And that's just going to make my header a little bit larger for me. Now, we also want to change out this verbiage in the middle, right? It doesn't make much sense. So I'm just going to come in and put in some information for my students. But remember, this is the rich content editor that we just used for the announcement. So we can come in, and we are familiar with this. One thing I did not show you is the idea of a list. So we have a bulleted list, or we can click this drop down. We have a numbered list as well. If we want to create an outline on a page, we have those options as well. So you're going to create a bulleted list. Interesting. So that's part of the joys of my copying my information over. Didn't take the page breaks. But, I have a bulleted list, right? And so, maybe I want to, if I have a discussion board that's a Q&A, I want to link out to my Q&A discussion board within my instance, right? So I click here, I do course links, and I would find the Q&A discussion. Okay, I don't have one, but I could find the Q&A discussion board, right? And so I can do that as well. Again, these are just images. Okay, so these are just buttons that are images that when we click on them, they're just links. So an image can be a link as well. And so you just click on it, and you do the same process to create a link. So whether it's an external link, right, or whether it's an internal link with your course links. Okay, so an image can be a link as well. But you can also come in, you can modify this however you see fit for your course and for your students. Whenever you have it done and you like it, you just click Save. I'm going to click back on my home just so we can see it in context of our home page. And this is what my students will see now. Now, keep in mind that students typically don't scroll past what they can see. That's just, unfortunately how it is. So you don't want to overwhelm them and give them tons of information, right? So don't, if you need to provide information, you can update this week by week. You can have different pages and change out your page every week. That is up to you. And so you go ahead and just modify this information based upon your needs of your students and where you are within the week or within the month or within the semester itself. So that is modifying the page. But also on this page, notice that we do have some more navigational links here on the right. So for example, I see that I have some to-do items. Students will also have to-do where they can begin to see some of their items that they have coming up, as well as items that they have to submit. But I can tell that from this information, I have 4 items that I need to grade, right? So me as the instructor, I need to come in and grade. But also within this course, I have student view, right? We have a student view available in every course that you teach. So as you are building things, as you are wanting to test something, you can just come into the student view. This is one place where we have student view is on your home page. When you click student view, it will take you in as I like to call a real fake student, okay? So whenever you're in here, you can navigate. You can begin to look at the calendar, the inbox, the help menu as a student, what the dashboard's like as a student. You can see all of this. Notice my students' to-do list is pretty full. So I can see everything that's coming up for me with dates. I can click on these items and it'll take me to those for me to complete. But I can navigate through here just as a real student would. So I can come in, I can submit items as a student. So just giving you that same experience so you can know what that functionality is like, all right? Now, whenever you leave student view, you have two options. You can leave student view, right? And that'll leave every interaction that you just had in place. Or you can reset student view. So maybe as you're testing something and maybe it doesn't work, maybe as you've submitted an assignment or a quiz and you want to resubmit it, you can go ahead and reset that student view. That way you can come back in and test it a second time, all right? So we're just going to leave student view and we'll come back here in a little bit. I mentioned earlier, this course navigation started with home, ends with settings. Now I'm going to go ahead and go into settings. And I want to take a look at a couple of settings that we have available in here. The first one is the idea of resetting this course card, all right? So those of you who I pushed out the content to should have this item, this image that says learn. You know, as you begin to use this template, you would want to change this because if you don't, all of your students' courses will have the same learn image, okay? And so to change your course card, we're just gonna click the more options menu in the upper right-hand corner for the course card image. And I'm just gonna click choose image. Now, if you are in a blank course and you don't have an image, you're just going to click on the blank itself, on the square itself and say choose image. Now, if you have an image for the course, all right, so maybe you've taken a picture that's representative of the course. Maybe you've gone to Google and you have a royalty-free image that you would like to use. You can upload an image, all right? And so also as you've gotten a GIF, maybe you can go ahead and upload that image. So maybe if I'm teaching a science course and I want this to be my visual representation of the course, I can go ahead and upload that GIF, all right? Now, if you don't have an image, again, we can use Unsplash. So if I'm teaching science, I can come in and view any of these images, and I can scroll through and see which one makes sense for my course, right? So we will say, I'll go back. I think I liked one better over here. I think it was on the first page. Yeah, it was the skeleton. I liked the skeleton. Maybe it's a anatomy or physiology course or something. So you can choose from that. So the Unsplash, again, is a royalty-free resource for you that you don't have to worry about, you know, copyright laws or anything. So those are Creative Commons for you. Now, another really, one of my favorite hidden options to choose is at the very bottom of this course details page under settings. I'm going to scroll down to the very bottom and notice at the very bottom you have a link that says more options, okay? So under more options you have this show recent announcements on course homepage. What we suggest is going ahead and enabling that. So clicking that checkbox and then choosing how many announcements you would like to have shown on your homepage. So you can have between 1 announcement and 15. Now we recommend between 2 and 3. Again, because students aren't going to scroll past what they can see. So if you have 15 recent announcements on your homepage, it's going to push your normal homepage content down and students just aren't going to scroll down and see the rest of the homepage. So whenever you have your recent announcements on your homepage, we're just going to click Update Course Details. And then whenever I go back to my homepage, notice that now that Zoom meeting announcement is on my homepage. Also notice my avatar is there, right? And so it just kind of gives that visual engagement for my students, letting them know, hey, this is your teacher, this is who posted that announcement. And so this is, again, just a great way for students just when they are coming into the class, just to be able to see, hey, this is what's going on, as opposed to always having to click on announcements to see the information. I'm going to click back on my settings. And this time I'm going to click on the navigation tab, all right? This navigation tab controls what students can see on the course navigation. Now, if it has an I with a slash through it, that means students cannot see those items, okay? Now, we suggest cleaning up your course navigation, only leaving the important things. This really alleviates confusion for the students and only drives them to the areas where they need to go. So, to clean up your course navigation, where this says drag items here to hide them from students, just pretend like there's a line right there, okay? And with that line, anything above the line means that they can see it, and anything below the line means they cannot see it, all right? So we're going to clean this up. I'm just gonna, you can click and drag down, or you can click on the item and say, oh, maybe, and say disable. And so I'm just going to clean mine up. And so some of these I don't necessarily need students to see. I don't necessarily need them to see their peers. Syllabus tool I'm not going to use. But these items I am going to use, okay? So announcements. Even though I have recent announcements on my homepage, I want them to be able to come in and see the historical announcements, okay? And so I'm going to leave that tool in place. Now, modules. Modules are where we are going to go and see all of our course content. So you may be wondering, hey, assignments, discussions, quizzes, why are we not enabling those? Well, it's because those are just index pages that I have access to in order to begin to create content, load content, organize items. But if students go into those, they'll be able to see everything, and that's kind of overwhelming. Instead, I'm going to use my modules tool that we're going to look at here in a little bit in order to begin to organize my content, okay? Now, you also have grades, all right? I think it's important for students to know how they're doing, so I'm going to leave the grades tool enabled as well. Now, what's really important is after you have your course navigation in the order that you would like it in, it's important to click Save at the very bottom of the page. And now look at my course navigation. Not only does it clean it up for the student, it cleans it up for me as well, right? Takes some of those tools out, and now I can more easily access some of these areas. So, for example, I know I'm going to be accessing modules a lot as well, and so it's nice to have those at the top of my course navigation. Now, I mentioned there was a couple of areas where you have student view. The other area where you have student view is in your settings as well. So in this menu on the far right-hand side, you have student view as well. So let's just take a look and see what our course navigation looks like. In my opinion, that is much better, right? It's just driving me into these specific areas and telling me, hey, if I want to access anything in my course, this is what I need to access. I'm going to go ahead and leave student view, because now is where the fun part starts, right? So we've begun to organize our course, okay? We've edited using the rich content editor, and we've started to become familiar with that. But now we need to make a decision, okay? So as has been communicated to you by your district, you do have access to some pre-built content as that's been created by BYU. And you can begin to load that into your course, okay? Now, in addition to loading content into your course, you can also begin to create content, right? So we'll talk about that here in a little while, about how we can use this template, how we can create content, and how we can begin to reuse any information that we already have, okay? Or we can do both, right? we can take the BYU content, use what is pertinent for me, and bring that into my course, take out what I don't need, only leave what I do need, and then also build my content as well. So let me show you how you can get that BYU content in the event you need to get that content, okay? So we are going to go to our dashboard, and we're going to go to Commons, okay? So your BYU content is going to live under Commons. Now, whenever you are in here, you will see the content that's available to you. All right. Now, some of this was loaded earlier this week, and to find the content that you need, we're just going to search. Interesting. Okay, so a couple of things. I'm getting a comment for a quick break. We will see here in a little bit where we're at time-wise. Again, this is a full load of content. So we'll see if we have time for a quick break here in just a little bit. Also, I'm getting another note that someone says their dashboard says access denied. So that's access denied when you click on Commons. Access denied when you click on dashboard. Interesting. Okay, so when you click on the dashboard, oh, okay. Yeah, are you in student view? Thank you, Gina. So whenever you're in Commons, you can search for the course that you teach, right? Your course subject. And so for this instance, we'll say algebra. And so you have your algebra 2, part 2, your algebra 1, part 1, for example. And you can begin to come in here and just take a look at some of this information. And so this will bring everything in via modules, which we will take a look at here, I believe, in the 3rd hour. And so you can just see what is coming in when it comes to this BYU content, right? And then whenever you want to, you just click import download. Yeah, I had an error yesterday and I have an error again today, probably because I'm not actually in your system. But you would just select the course that you would like to import into. And so you just click the checkbox for that course, and then you click import into course. And then it will take the content that you want from the BYU content and go ahead and import it in. So what that looks like, here is actually the Algebra 1 Part 1 content imported into a course. So this is all that information. Now, again, I can't click on this because of the way the BYU content is set up. You actually have to be a member of the institution itself and an actual teacher or student. And so I can't actually preview any of this, but as you begin to import this, you should be able to take a look at this. If you run into any issues, reach out to your folks at the district there, and they should be able to assist you. But that's how you can begin to bring in the BYU content. Again, that's going to Commons, searching for a subject, finding the course, clicking on import download, clicking up here where it says import into Canvas, clicking the course you want to import into, and then clicking import into course. Okay, so after you have that imported, you can also begin to create content, right? And we'll talk here in a little while about what else we can do with the content as well. But we can also begin to create some content within our course. Let's start off with the idea of gradable content, right? So we want to assess our students with an assignment. I'm going to start off with the assignment tool. So in our course navigation, find the word assignments, and we're going to view the assignments. So I'm going to go into what's called the assignments index page. And notice that you have a number of groups that are created for you. Mine are a little different than yours, but you have groups that have been created for you, okay? Now, I believe you have something like an individual assignment, assignments, and so on and so forth. So you can create these groups, right? So you can we can go ahead and modify these groups. So maybe lab assignments, right? Maybe I'm not, so me personally, because I have lab assignments in my assignments index page, I can modify this. So if on yours, if you have individual assignments, maybe this is going to be, oh, I don't know, essay assignments, right? And we'll click save. And so you can begin to modify any of those groups in there that you don't need. But also, you can click plus group, because this is about modifying the gradable content that you'll have inside your course. So you want to make sure that you have the groups so you can begin to organize your content, okay? So you can just click plus group, and you can say, you know, we'll say speeches, right? And we'll click save. Maybe I'm gonna have students do some verbal work for me. And so you can do that as well. You can also click and drag any of these and organize your groups. It's important to have your groups organized, because as you begin to create gradable content, these groups is where you will begin to assign that gradable content, okay? You can also click and drag any of these items within the groups themselves. So maybe this individual assignment, maybe that belongs under essay assignments, right? And so I can just go ahead and put that under essay assignments, and so I can begin to organize this as well. Now, something you may notice is that I have percentages weights, right? And so I have my assignments weighted, right? My groups are weighted. And so I can go ahead and say, you know, that in these individual groups, I can go ahead and say my assignments are going to be 30% of my total. So as students are submitting and being assessed on these individual assignments, they will be totaled up. They will be weighted inside that assignment group, and then they will be weighted at the total. So to do that, we're going to click the More Options menu at the very top. We're going to click on Assignment Groups Weight. And you should have this checkbox that says Weight Final Grade based on assignment groups. Just click that checkbox and then begin to put in the percentages for your course. So I'm going to say, I'm going to change mine around a little bit. And I'm going to say speeches are also worth 10%. And then now notice that it gives you a running total at the bottom here as well. And so you just click save, and then you have your groups as well. So that is how you can begin to weight your groups in the event you want to weight your grades, your total grade. All right. Now you can go off of points if you would like to, and just have everything add up to total points, and have Canvas work that way as well, and not weight your groups. That is completely up to you. But now let's say you want to create an assignment, okay? We can do that from this assignment index page as well. Now, whenever, let me back up a minute. When I'm using the word assignments, right, and I'm using the term graded content, this assignments index page will bring in anything that's graded. Notice I have a group here for discussions. Maybe I'm having a graded discussion thread within my course. Also, I have quizzes on here. Quizzes, maybe I have graded quizzes within my my course. So this assignments index page will bring in any graded content within the course itself. Now, this plus assignment is for you to begin to use the assignment tool, all right, for students to actually submit something, right? So if you wanted a graded discussion, you create it under discussions. If you wanted a graded quiz, you create it under graded quizzes. Now, to create a graded assignment, we're going to create it with this plus assignment button at the top, at the upper right. Oof, I struggled getting that one out. So we're just going to click on plus assignment. And notice we have the familiarity here, okay, right? Again, the rich content editor. As is with anything, we need to give this a title, in this case, an assignment name. So I will just say assignment 1, career ambitions. And so we give it the instructions, all right? And so we will say, please write a 5-page paper on future career ambitions, etc. Right? You would outline any guidelines for them, and we'll take a look at here in a minute as to a template that we have for you and how you can begin to reuse that template. But again, because we have the full rich content editor for us, if we wanted to, embed a Google document, right? Use this document for your paper that you're writing. Use these slides as and use these terms. You can go ahead and embed your Google document within these assignment instructions. You have your links, images, media, a file. If you wanted to do a file instead of a Google document, you have all of this available to you within the rich content editor. Coming down, we have our settings for our assignment. The first one's points, right? That's pretty standard. We'll just say how many points the assignment's worth. We just talked about assignment groups, right? And I told you that when you create anything that's graded within Canvas itself, you go ahead and give it the assignment group, okay? And so maybe this is going to be part of the essay assignments, all right? And you just choose which group it's going to be in, and we'll say essay assignments. Then you choose how the grade is going to be displayed, right? You have a number of options available to you. The default is points, but you can go ahead and choose how to display the grade. Also, as grades are being calculated in Canvas, right? And so you have a total grade in the gradebook column that we'll take a look at here in a little while. You have the ability to say, don't count this towards the final grade, all right? And so you can go ahead and bypass the calculation in the final grade. Now, this is the submission types. You have a couple of options here, right? I want to point out something about the gradebook. In the Canvas gradebook, you cannot create columns, all right? You can't just, if you're needing to assess students and just provide grades to them, you cannot just go in and create a column in the gradebook, okay? In order for there to be a column in the gradebook, you have to create an assignment first. So we can say we're going to do a no submission type. Maybe this is, one of those speeches, okay? All right, I have that in my speech assignment group. Maybe it's going to be a speech. Maybe this is a performance of some sort where they're not actually submitting something to me, right? Or we can have an on-paper submission type. Now, this is where they're physically turning something into me, or in our current climate of virtualness, maybe they're virtually emailing something to me, right? And so we can also say an on-paper submission type. So when you say no submission, notice you don't have any other settings. And when you say on paper, you also have no additional settings, all right? So those are the options available to you in order to create a gradebook column where you need to provide grades to students. You have a no submission or an on-paper submission. You also have an external tool, all right? Now, when you do external tool, you can find an external tool, and this will show you the tools that are available in your system For example, you can have a Google Drive cloud assignment. What this will do is, let me find this. It'll go out to my Google Drive. I can take this assignment to worksheet and we'll say submit. And now this will, let me select that. This will actually link out to that app and link out to that individual document that I just selected within my Google Drive, and it'll make a copy of that document and give it to the students. So each student will get their own copy of that document that they can write on, they can edit and make changes to, and then submit it. And then when we look at SpeedGrader here in a little bit, I will also be able to assess them in SpeedGrader and provide feedback in SpeedGrader as well. So that is how you can use your Google Drive in order to have a Google Cloud assignment. But you also have this online submission type. This is probably our #1 used submission type. And so with an online submission type, you have a number of options available to you. You have a text entry option. This gives them the option for giving them the rich content editor, okay? So when you give them the rich content editor, it's the same editor you have. So they can copy and paste information over, they can type, they can embed images, they have the full suite, right? And so they can go ahead and submit information to you. You also have a website URL. In the event a student is creating a website, creating a blog, whatever the need may be, all they're doing is submitting a website to you. You also have a media recording tool, right? And so this is great if you're needing students to create a video, upload that video to you. You also can have them record themselves, right? So as we saw earlier, you can have them record themselves and upload that as well. When we aren't all locked down to our homes, this is great for the mobile app for students to, go to an art gallery, for example, critique a piece of art in selfie mode in order for the instructor to know that, hey, they were actually at the gallery and that they were participating in this. You also have file uploads. This is probably the most used in terms of online submission type. And this is just students submitting a file. But you can also restrict the file type, right? So if you need students to submit a PDF to you, you can go ahead and say, I need a PDF. And you would just say PDF, right? And so it'll say, to students, you have to submit a PDF, all right? Now, if you don't need to restrict file upload types, then don't, right? That's up to you. Now, what I really love is this assign to area, okay? This is one of my favorite parts about anything that's graded is this assign to aspect. You have a due date. Now, if you want students to have information on their calendar, if you want students to have information on their to-do list, you want to give this item a due date. So all you do is click this calendar, and we will say this is going to be due, we'll say Monday. Monday, and then you can even choose the time. By default, it's the end of the day at 11:59 p.m. But you can change the time and say that it's going to be, we'll say 8 o'clock p.m., right? At what I'm going to say, my end of the day is 8 o'clock p.m. You click done, and now that's when students have to do. But you have this availability window, okay? So we can say students can start to submit today, okay? They can start submitting early, and I'm not going to penalize them, right? And so we'll say today they can start submitting, and then we have this until date. Now you can leave this blank, and they can submit until the end of time, or you can lock it down and say, I'll take late work. And so that was Monday. I'll take late work until Friday, right? And so Friday at 11:59 p.m., I will take late work. So that will go ahead and give them those extra few days in order to submit it to you. And what this will do is after that, students can't submit. They will not get the submission button in the system, all right? Also, when we start to look at the gradebook here in just a little bit, students will have the we can have the grade book go ahead and automatically deduct some points for us, okay? And so as they pass this window and they are in this late window, we can say, you know what, deduct some percentage points from the student based upon day or hour. But also by going ahead and specifying this information, it'll ping the student and they'll be able to visually see that it is late. It's red, it's bold when they're submitting. It is late. They will know. In their gradebook, they will see it is late. Also, you will see in SpeedGrader, when we see here in a little bit, when it's submitted, that it was late. You will see all of that information. But in addition to assigning, notice it says to everyone, I'm assigning this information to everyone. What if I have a student that maybe needs a different due date, okay? What if I have a student who, you know, they maybe were ill or had problems accessing the document, you know, whatever the issue may be, I might need to provide them some sort of extension. All I need to do is click this plus add button. And notice that it gives me my list of students, right? Or I can search for a student up here. And I'm just going to click on my favorite guinea pig student, Frank Wood. And I'm going to give him a different due date. So he says he was sick for 3 days, right? So I'll give him until the 9th. I'm going to give him the same start date. And we were giving until Friday, so we'll give him till Monday. I don't know if that's the right amount of days, but we'll give him about that many days. So there is how you go ahead and provide an additional differentiated due date for a student, right? Just come in, click that plus add button, give them a different due date, change their until date, right? I usually leave the same availability date as the same start date, just because I'm not going to penalize them for coming in early, right? So this was 3 days early. I'm not going to say on the start of the 6th, right? I'm not going to give them that information. If I have a student who needs the same extension, all I need to do is come in here, click inside that box, click the name, and that student has the same submission. If I have a student who needs a different extension, right? So if I have a different differentiation, I can just click the plus add button, and we can have a completely different due date, right? So it's just the idea of differentiating those due dates for your students. As I zoom out, you can begin to see that now everyone else, not everyone, but everyone else has this due date and availability window. And then these two students have that due date and availability window. And then this one student has a completely different, way in the future, due date and availability window. All right, so that's how you can begin to differentiate your due dates for your students. Now, with that, with Canvas, with a lot of areas, after you complete them, you can either save them, okay, or you can save and publish them. Saving them means that it leaves it in draft state, okay? So you can come back to it. Students aren't going to know it exists until you publish it, right? Or you can click save and publish. If you know, hey, this is ready to go, I'll just click save and publish. We'll click save and publish, and then we can see that, all right? And so I can come in, I can see, all right, here are my instructions. Here are the points for this, and here are what students are going to be submitting. I went ahead and did the full gamut, just so that way when we come in here in a little while, we can actually see what this looks like. And then we can go ahead and see the differentiated due dates. Now, I cannot click on this, okay? I cannot come in and click on this and see this. I would actually have to edit the assignment and then come down to the assigned to area in order to see the individual areas, okay? I'm going to click back on my home page, and I actually want you to see what it's like as a student. So even though I haven't published this in my modules yet, right, because keep in mind, I don't Students don't have access to my assignments. I haven't published this in a module, but students will still be able to see this in their to-do list. So I'm going to go ahead and go into student view, and I'm just going to submit this as a student, just so you can kind of get the feel of what this looks like as a student. So again, here I am as a student. I'm in my to-do list. There is that assignment 1, career ambitions, right? It's in my to-do list. I know it's worth 50 points. There is when it's due, April 6th at 8 p.m. I'm going to click on it. It's going to go ahead and take me to there. All right. So here are my instructions. You know, obviously, if there were more instructions, it'd be a nice, pretty page. Here's when it's due, my points. This is what I'm submitting, and there's my availability window. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click Submit Assignment. Okay. So here's what it looks like as a student. If I were to do a text entry, again, I have access to the full rich content editor. In order for me to come in, I can type something, I can embed images, I can do anything that you can do. Here's that website URL. I can just go ahead and put in the URL itself. The media, I can record, upload media just as you can. Again, I can upload media as a student, or I can upload anything that I've created. So it's great for any kind of visual course. I also, because I have these tools installed in my instance, students will have access to their Google Drive or Office 365 instance for them to be able to access their files that maybe they have stored in their cloud instances. But I'm going to go ahead and do file upload. So I'm going to do choose file. And I'm going to go to my documents. And I'm just going to upload something. And I'm going to say, thanks. Right? I'm going to submit the assignment. Give it a second. And then I'm going to say, oh, wait, I forgot. I submitted the wrong thing, right? I'm going to say, all right, let's resubmit the assignment. I'm going to say choose file. And I am this time going to submit this one, right? This is my submitted the wrong document first. Please grade the second document, right? This will never happen with any of your students, I promise. And we'll click submit. And I'm doing that just so that way you can see as a teacher what that will look like here in a little bit when we get to the grading section. So I'm going to go ahead and again, I'm going to leave student view. I'm not going to reset the student view just because that will wipe out that submission. But I'm going to go ahead and leave student view for now. And that is how your students will go in and submit their assignments for you to come in and grade them. Let's talk about the idea now of course flow. So if you go to your modules page, you should have some items. Yes, y'all are welcome. You should have some items available to you. Mine look a little different. So you have some items at the very top that I do not have that I've gone in and cleaned out. Now this brings up the good point about the BYU content. So by default, I believe the BYU content is unpublished. So notice my modules up here at the top have these green check marks. Green check marks means modules and module items are published. These little slashes means that they are unpublished, all right? So I believe that the BYU content by default is unpublished. So you can leave items unpublished. You can have items, you know, you can mix them up, right? And so whenever it's unpublished, you can still see them, just students cannot see them, all right? One important thing to note is this unpublished at the very top of the module, okay? Oops, let me get that back out there. So notice that this module at the very top, this gray bar, notice that it is now unpublished. That means students won't be able to see anything inside the module. That's probably one of our #1 support calls is that I can see my module, students can't see the modules. Well, it's because we're looking at these green check marks and we don't see this one up here at the top. So we just want to make sure that that is published, all right? Now, we can also delete modules. So if we click the more options menu for the module as itself, not the module items, but the module as itself, we can delete an entire module, all right? We can also go ahead and remove module items. So if we want something out of a module, we can go ahead and click the More Options menu for an item and remove that item. Now, I tell you all of that because it's great to know as you import that BYU content, if you want to manage anything in there, right? If you say, you know what, this isn't pertinent to what I teach, I'm not going to cover that, you can go ahead and either delete the module, delete the item, keep it unpublished. Maybe you're going to use it later. Keep it unpublished. Just publish it when you want it. Go ahead and do that. Also, you have these little triangles right next to the module title. When you click on that, it'll collapse the module. Okay. And so now this is just for you, right? This is just to clean up your view of your modules page. And so if you have a lot of modules, especially with that BYU content, you can just go ahead and collapse some of those modules and clean things up for you a little bit. Also, you can reorganize content, all right? So you can go ahead and click and drag with these dots on the far left, and you can go ahead and organize any content within there. You can also do whole modules, right? And so you can go ahead and move modules around as well. But I want to talk to you about this module that I pushed out to those of you who got your sandbox created at the very beginning. All right. So it's the idea of this week brackets dates here module. So what we like to do is work on the concept of a templated module. So modules can be created in a number of ways for a number of ways we teach. We can have modules for individual units. We can have modules for week, for days, for learning resources. However you want to teach, you can organize your modules that way. Now, I'm going to operate off of this module. Keep in mind, you can create modules by clicking this blue plus module button up here at the top. You would just click this blue module, give it a name, and click add module. But I'm going to operate under this module template that's already been created. Okay. So inside this template, we have additional items that have been created for you. All right. So we have the idea of a content page. Okay. Here's a little tip for you. That home page that we edited is nothing but a content page. When we think about a content page, it's just a matter of delivering information to our students. Okay. So if we look at this week bracket overview and to-do list, we can just click on that. This is just a structure of information that we may want to give our students as they are thinking about the week ahead, right? Remember, my module was organized by week. And so we can come in, we can click this edit button, right? It'll give us the rich content editor, and we can go ahead and format this page here in a little bit. But we also have a presentation, we have a discussion, right? We also have an assignment. We looked at the assignment tool earlier. But whenever we look at this assignment, notice that it gives us a structure for our instructions, okay? And so we have an overview, the guidelines that we're going to expect, as well as some technical support, all right? And I'll show you here in a little bit how we can begin to utilize these. So this is just a structure, right, of what we may want to utilize for our weekly module. But what's really cool about Canvas is that we can duplicate this module. So instead of coming in and editing this, I'm going to keep this module in place as is, okay? And I'm just going to duplicate this for my week 1 module. And I'm going to come up here to the More Options menu for this first, for this template. And I'm going to click the More Options menu, and I'm going to click on Duplicate. Now notice that down here at the bottom, it says it's duplicating module. And now it's going to give me my copy of that module. All right. So this is going to be my week 1 where I'm going to come in and edit all of this information. So I'm going to come up here actually, and I'm going to minimize this. Sometimes it, after you duplicate it, kind of hangs up. There we go. And now I'm just going to come in and begin to modify some of this content. So I can just come in and say, you know, if I want to, first of all, week brackets dates here copy won't make a lot of sense to my students. So I'm going to come in and edit this. So I'm going to edit, I'm going to say week 1. And for my dates here, I'm going to say April 6th to April 10th. I'm just going to click Update Module, and notice that now it gives that information. Okay. Now I'm going to then come in and I'm going to do this page, right? We looked at this page a second ago, but maybe I want some information on this page. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to edit this page. Now this time, instead of editing within the module itself, I'm going to edit the title from the page itself. I'm going to go ahead and give me some space here. I'm just going to take out that text. Now keep in mind that if we wanted to, we could put any information in here, right? So I know that we just duplicated that discussion. I can give a course link, right? We talked about the idea of course links earlier. I'm looking for a copy of a discussion. There it is. So that's where my students will go for their group discussion, okay? And so I can begin to edit this however I see fit. I'm just going to go ahead and click Save and Publish. I'm going to go back to my modules and notice now that my title has been updated as well. One thing I do want to point out is that this thing is kind of in the same line. We can do a little formatting and kind of organize this a little bit by indenting this week 1 overview. I'm just going to click and I'm going to do on this more options menu for the week 1 overview. I'm going to do increase indent. All right. And so that just kind of gives that little stair step, just to make things a little visually pleasing. I can come in, I can edit this presentation. I would normally go in and edit it within the page itself, but we'll just say, instead of editing the page, we'll say presentation, geology formations, and we'll click update, and we'll increase the indent, just make it pretty. We'll just increase the indent on the discussion. Assignment. So assignment, again, we can come into this assignment. Maybe we want this to be, we'll edit this assignment, and instead of individual assignment, we're going to rename this and say geology review assignment, right? And then I would come modify all this information, right, for my students, provide any additional resources, give them the points that they need for this, change the submission type, change the assigned to information. So maybe this is going to be due Wednesday, their availability window. All of this I would need to come in and modify. I'll just click Save and Publish. Go back to my modules and see, now it's updated that information, increase indent. And then maybe on Thursday, right? Maybe I want some information on Thursday. What I want to point out really quick is this about this week and the days of the week and week in review. Those are all text headers. Maybe I want to break up my day with text headers as well. So I can come up to this plus button. So we can add additional information to our modules as well. I'm just going to click this plus button and notice that we have access to the content that's in our course. Well, one of those items is text header. So maybe I want to say resources, and I'm going to indent 1 level, add item. And again, we can organize inside our module. So I'm just going to click and move that up to Thursday. And I'm going to add another text header, and I'm going to say assignment, and keep the formatting there, right? And so maybe I'm going to organize this a little bit, right, within the day also. Just provide some information. Hey, you're going to have resources, and you're going to have an assignment on this day, okay? But in addition to resources, right? So we have the idea of a content page, right? So here's, for example, here's the that page where we have the presentation, right? So we can come in and give students access information. That's part of that template that we have for you. But we can also begin to bring in any sort of external source as well. So if we click this plus button, we can add a file, okay? So we can click on New File. We can click Choose File. And notice that we can upload a PowerPoint, for example, or we can go ahead and upload a Word document or a PDF, for example. We can go ahead and upload these documents and go ahead and place them within our course. Now, again, we talked earlier when we talked about the announcements and the rich content editor, that's a static file, right? And we may want to have our students have access to something more dynamic, something that I can make my life easier by changing it in one location and then updating everywhere. And so I might want to use an external tool and coming down here to Google Drive. Now, when I go to Google Drive, give it a second, I can come in and say, here are my plot terms. Let me scroll down here, plot terms for plot analysis assignment. And I can say indent 2 levels now, so it gives it an additional stair step. And I'm going to click add item. And I'm just going to go ahead and put this under resources for my Thursday, okay? So now students will have access to that Google slide. And so that looks like this. It just goes ahead and puts it within the page itself. So students have access. We can go ahead, we can navigate through this. And again, as I am using this in multiple locations, we can go ahead and modify this in one location, right? So I can go to my drive and I can edit this and then give students access to that within my course, and then they'll have those changes. But then also, as we are creating assignments as well, I talked earlier about the idea of deploying an assignment, right? I didn't have it in my modules yet, but here's that assignment 1 career ambitions assignment. Look, it is in my my assignments area where I can go ahead and add this to my module. So I can click add item, and I can just go ahead and click and put that under Thursday's assignment. So now look, here's my module. Here's what I'm creating for my first week, okay? So Monday, here's what they have. Thursday, oh, Thursday's gonna be a bad day. You got some resources. You have some assignments. Friday, let me go ahead and indent this, right? Let me make sure that things are looking pretty. What's great is that there is a student app available. And so as students are using the app on either their iOS or Android device, this module structure will translate over as well. And so it, you're not, it really keeps things nice and organized for the student. So that's how you can go ahead and organize a module for your students. But now notice that I have a lot of content that is not published, right? I have plenty of information that I need to come and publish. I can come in, I can click these one at a time. But what I really love is if I know I'm going to need to publish all of this information, I can just click this publish button at the very top of the module and watch. It goes and publishes everything for me within that module. So just giving me that ease of information, right? So yeah, just making things nice and easy. So let's take a look and see how that module looks as a student. Now keep in mind, I have this week bracket dates here. That's my template, and it is currently unpublished. So my test student should not be able to see it. We'll make sure Canvas is working as designed. Go back to my home page, click on Student View, and we'll see what it looks like. Again, remember, I've cleaned up my my navigation, so I just have my modules. All right, looks good. So I have my overview, so I can come in as a student. Now this is just giving me some information as a student. Again, part of that template, giving me some basics, giving me some resources, some videos as a student, how I can begin to navigate throughout Canvas. Part of the modules is having these these navigational buttons at the very bottom. So you have this previous and next. So I can, without having to go back to modules and go into the pages themselves, I can just navigate into the module by clicking these next buttons. All right. And so here is a page that would need to be updated. And so just giving an overview about the course, okay? And then here's another page, the About Your Teacher page, right? And so coming in, replacing that image with a picture of yourself, giving students some information about you and how they can contact you, right? You can come in and edit that page. And this is part of the module in that template. Here's that discussion board. And then this takes me into that, that module, okay? And so giving students, again, the overview for the week. If I click on this, that will take me to the discussion for the week. Again, that's also in the module. But let's take a look and see what that module looks like as a stair step. Notice how pretty this looks. Again, just kind of breaking up that Thursday, stepping things in a little bit, just making things nice and organized as opposed to just one long list for the students. So giving you the that information. So again, I'm going to go ahead and leave student view for a second. And now let's talk about our grade book. Okay, so we've gone in, we've created an assignment earlier, right? My test student submitted to that. I think I've created some other assignments as well, but I have a grade book where I want to take a look and see maybe how my students are performing. I do have some grades in here. I want to point out a couple of things in my grade book, okay? So I have this icon. This is the first thing I want to point out, right? Let me see if my trackpad will work so I can zoom in here. This icon, when you see this icon inside of your grade book, this means you need to do some sort of teacher intervention, okay? So this little notebook with the exclamation point means that the students have submitted something and you're gonna need to go in there and go into SpeedGrader and assess them, right? So you'll need to provide some information. Let me do something really quick so I can show you a magic trick. And so that's one information, right? But also you have the total column, right? Defaults to the very end of your grade book, okay? And so your students don't necessarily, you won't necessarily be able to see your students right next to the gradebook column, okay? And so that can be sort of frustrating, and I admit that. I don't personally like that. So what you can do is you can click this drop down and you can click move to front, right? So click the more options to get your drop down and click move to front. And then it goes and it locks that total column next to the students. So now as you scroll to look at the grades, you'll have that total column right next to the students. I mentioned earlier about the idea of late work. If we click this gear wheel in the upper right hand corner, it'll give us the ability to apply some policies, right? So the first one is the ability to apply a grade for missing submissions, okay? So we can have Canvas apply a percentage for whenever something is labeled as missing, all right? And so we can say, you know, if it's past that late term that we set, give them a 0 and go ahead and prevent me from having to come in and manually enter zeros. Just go ahead and give them the 0. Now you can also have this automatically apply a deduction for the late submissions, and you would just say, all right, deduct a certain percentage per day. So if you are deducting 10% per day and you're giving them an extra week to submit something, then it's going to deduct 70%, okay? And so then the highest that they could get would be a 30. Right? So as you grade, it's going to grade off of that 30%. Now you set the lowest possible grade. I leave this at 0 because I want it to keep deducting based upon my my grades and my late, right? And so the lowest possible grade they can get is a 0, right? Now underneath that gear wheel, you also have your grade posting policy. By default, Canvas will automatically post grades, okay? So when Canvas automatically posts the grades, as you are putting grades in the gradebook, students will automatically be notified as to how they are doing, okay? And so if they have notifications set up, if they happen to be in the course and they're looking at their grades, they will be able to see the grades as you are posting them. So I'm going to go and click update just so we can see what this looks like. We'll pretend like this particular assignment, we'll say Todd gets a 24, Jackson got a 22, and then I got busy, right? We're in a season where we're working from home. We've got kids. I got busy with something. I got a meeting that came up, and I needed to stop grading for a second or stop entering grades for a second. Well, Todd and Frank are really good friends, and Todd reached out to Frank and said, hey, I got a 24 out of 25 on that geology review. What did you get? And Frank's going, well, I don't know what I got. I haven't been, I don't have my grade yet. And so now Frank's messaging you and saying, hey, where's my grade? Where's my grade? Where's my grade? And you're messaging back, hey, I'm going to get to it. I'm in a meeting. So to prevent that, right, we don't necessarily want that to happen. We're going to go ahead and change this grade posting policy to manually post grades, right? So when we do manually post grades, we choose when students are going to be notified of their grades, okay? And so if we look now at this particular column, as I enter grades, students will not know what their grade is. All right, so now look, now there's this I with a slash in it. So that just means students cannot see their grade yet, all right? And so what we do when we're done, we go ahead and we come to the column and we say post grades, right? And when we say post grades, we can say everyone gets their grade or only those that have gone ahead and graded will get their grade, all right? And so you go ahead and choose that and then you go ahead and post. Now, in addition to that, sometimes we have quizzes in our course that are automatically graded, right? Now, there we go. We have quizzes in our course that are automatically graded. And so we may want those to be automatically posted, right? And so we can come in and we can override that course setting of manually posting. And so let's say we have a quiz. We'll just choose, even though these already have their grades, we'll go ahead and choose one. We can go and click on the More Options menu for the column itself. And notice that we have a grade posting policy for the individual column. Okay, so when we click on the grade posting policy, we can change an individual column to automatically. And we click save, and now that policy has been overridden on the column basis. All right, I'm actually going to do that on this column just so we can make sure everything works just fine here in a minute. So on quizzes, you want to make sure that it's set to automatic. Just that way, whenever students are completing their automatically graded quizzes, you can go ahead and they can go ahead and see their grades. All right. Now, I mentioned that you have these icons where you may want to come in and actually, before we do that, let me show you a couple other things on the gradebook. You also have the option to have a notes column in your gradebook. All right. So under the notes column, notice, for example, Frank Wood has a couple of notes. Now, these notes are just for me. These are not necessarily for the student, and the students will not see these. But we can come in and we can just have a running notes for the student. All right. And so you cannot have multiple notes. You just have one long note for the student. But you can begin to take notes for the student based upon their needs, based upon anything that's happened, and go ahead and notate anything. Now notice that as I turn the notes column on and off, that the notes don't go away, right? They go ahead and stay present, all right? So you don't have to worry about those disappearing. Also, on an individual column, you can go ahead and do what's called message students who. This is, I don't know if it's my favorite feature of Canvas, but it's probably one of my favorite features. With message students who, this uses our inbox tool, all right? And so We can message students who haven't submitted yet, for example, and it'll pull in the students who haven't submitted, and it'll send individual messages to each of these students, okay? And so we can just send them a message and say, hey, I noticed you haven't submitted your geology concept map yet. Do you have any questions? How can I assist you? In addition to haven't submitted yet, you haven't been graded. And so it'll pull those students in as well and say, hey, thanks for submitting your assignment. I've seen your assignment. I know you've submitted. I'm working on grades. Don't worry. I will get back to you. All right. Everything's fine. You also have scored less than, and you set a certain threshold. And so we'll say 22, and it'll pull in the individual users. Again, this sends individual messages through Canvas to those users, okay? And so this is an inbox message to those students. They don't know that their peers scored the same thing. They don't know that their peers scored the same things. This is an individual message, all right? And so I'll go ahead and send this message and say, hello, I noticed you didn't perform as well as I know you can on the geology assignment, etc. Right? And so we'll just click send the message. And so that's how you can send a message out to the students. But in addition to those three options, you can also send out a message to anyone who scored more than an individual score. So this is a great way. I don't think we praise enough when it comes to assessing our students. So we can send out a message and say, hey, I noticed you scored above a certain threshold on this individual assignment. I want to thank you for your hard work. I know you put in a lot of effort on this assignment, and I just want to let you know that your work did not go unnoticed. So thank you. And so that's just a great way to easily pull in students who scored above a certain threshold. Again, whenever there's multiple students, so if we look at this one, so we'll say scored more than 22, still pulled in 4 students, they will each get individual messages, right? And so it'll be an individual message. So again, like I said, I don't know if it's my favorite feature, but it's definitely one of my favorite features of Canvas. Let's go back to this icon, right? I've teased it a couple times, but this tells me that I have some sort of intervention, right? This is something that I need to do within the gradebook. And so when I click on this icon, I can click and give them a grade, or I can go ahead and click on this arrow, and this will open up my grade details tab. In addition to giving them a grade here, I can mark this as late, and whenever I mark it as late, I can say how many days it was late, right? And so this will then take those late policies that I set and deduct the points. I can also mark this as missing, right? And notice that now it went ahead and gave it a 0 within the cell itself. Also, if maybe something happened, I can go ahead and excuse the student and go ahead and excuse them from this assignment, and then they won't be calculated for it. I also have the comments, right? These were the comments that the student left when they submitted the assignment. And so I can go ahead and see them and say, oh, okay, right. I need to make sure I'm grading the second document. I can know that before I even get into the assignment, all right? I can leave comments back to the student. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go to Speed Grader up at the very top in order to begin to see what they actually submitted. So I'm going to go to Speed Grader. And this takes me into their submission. Now, if this were late, I would have a notification over here on the far right that tells me it was late. This student told me, hey, I submitted the wrong document, but I have access with this drop-down right here where I can go ahead and I can see the other submission, right? Oh, yeah, that's definitely not the correct item. So I can go ahead and view the other one. I have, again, the ability to give them their grade right here, but then I also have the comments as well. Before I look at me adding a comment, I want to take a look at some of these annotation tools, all right? And so I can click and I can just provide a general comment. Let me change this color so it just kind of stands out. And so I can just click and make sure you don't bold, right? And just hit enter. Notice I get a reply button when the student comes in and views the feedback. They can also reply, and we can have a we can have a conversation back and forth aside from the comments, right, in line with the annotations. I also have a highlighter tool, and so I can change the color of the highlighter, but I can highlight some text on the document, make a comment on this as well. Great job on this section, right? I can also add freeform text. I can change the color of the text, right, based upon how I want to call it out. If this were something that maybe on this image, if I wanted to put text over this image, I can add a background to this, so make the background white so it stands out. I also have the ability to change the size of the text, but just for this, I will say great job. And then I can click and drag and move this around to where I want to. I can also strike out text, right? This is this next icon over, and just select this text and strike through, and be sure to, right, and leave comments for the student. I also can provide free-form annotation. Now, this free-form annotation I think is great in our Canvas for Teacher app that we have as well, especially when you have a stylus. But again, changing the color, right? So red is probably standard, but maybe you want to be a little bit more positive, perhaps, and a little bit more cheerful. And we'll go with a light blue, and you can change the size of the thickness, and you can, you know, come in and circle and change that around, and be careful with your headers, right? And just provide some information to the student with comments as well. Also, if we wanted to put a shape or a box around some information, we can do that as well. And so, you know, just come in and do that and provide some comments as well, right? So that's just annotating the document, okay? And just giving you the ability to provide some comments, provide some feedback to the student. But in addition to this, we have the option to provide some comments to the students. So we can say, great job on the work you put in this assignment. I appreciate everything, right? So we'll just say submit, and then that student will get that comment. Now, in addition to that, we can also attach a file. So we can say, choose the file, use the attached document for vocabulary, right? Vocabulary. Give them some additional information. Also, you have the media uploader tool. So if we wanted to provide an extra level of engagement to our students, we can do that as well. And so we can just say, start recording, gives me the countdown. Fabulous job on this assignment, test student. I had to think about who this was. And you know, I really appreciate your hard work. I'm so used to using Frank Wood as my demo student that I forgot this was a test student for a minute. You click save, and this will go ahead and put it and submit it for the student. There you go. But then also, if you are in Google Chrome, you can go ahead and use speech to text, right? If you wanted to. And so we'll use speech recognition. Click that, and we'll click record. Fabulous job, exclamation point. I really appreciate your hard work, period. And we'll click stop. And then that is the work for your student, all right? I'm gonna go ahead and delete that one. But that's how you can begin to provide some feedback and assess your students. Now, speaking of assessing, I need to give them a grade, right? And so I'll give them a 48, okay? We'll just click out of that, and that'll go ahead and provide the grade to the student. Now, I can come in and I can use these links up here. I can go back to my gradebook. I can use this link right here and go back to my assignment, or I can use this link and I can go back to my course itself, right? And go back to my home page. I'm going to go back to my gradebook because I want to show you what it's like whenever you have multiple action items. And so I'm going to go in as and look at this student, okay? And I'm going to go to SpeedGrader. Now, when you have students who have multiple students who have submitted, right? And so this basically this whole course is submitted. notice that these check marks means they've been graded. So now Jerome, for example, has not submitted, right? So, but I have a missing policy on this, and so that's why he was graded. He got a 0 automatically, and so that's why he has a green check mark. But if they've submitted and they have not been graded, then they have a an orange dot. Let me see if I can find that. Yeah, there you go. This is just a JPEG image. So if you have students needing to submit an image, you can also come in and annotate on this as well. And so you can come in and provide annotations to the students, right? Hopefully something more than a smiley face, but you can provide annotations to the students within images that they upload as well. In addition to clicking this drop down and just navigating through the student as looking to see what there is, you have these arrows also where you can begin to click back and forth and see the student submissions as well. And so that is going in and just assessing your students and using SpeedGrader and bringing in the information. All right, so let's go back. I'm going to go back to my home page by clicking on Campbell Union. And I'm going to go into my student view. I want to see what it's like as this student in my gradebook. Okay. I'm going to click on grades. Now notice I have this number 1 for me. All right, this tells me that I have a new grade. And I have a dot that is next to the grade, which tells me that that is what was just assessed, right? This is something I haven't seen yet. So I can come in, I can see when everything is due, okay? I can see the assignments, right? I can come down and see how I'm performing. Remember, I'm weighting my grades. I can see all of this information. And then I can also see on the far right how those individual columns are being weighted. Now, keep in mind that I have my grade posting policies as manual. So this little I means that I cannot see these grades, all right? And so the instructor's still working on them. So at a later date, we can come in and see how I'm doing whenever the instructor releases those grades. Now I can click on this little discussion icon, this little comment icon, and I can see everything that's been communicated back and forth between me and my teacher. So here are those first 2 that I did. No thanks, submitted the wrong document. Here is the second assignment or the second document. But then here's my teacher, right? So just within the grade book itself, I can go ahead and see this information. Here's that PowerPoint presentation that I can download, and there's that media comment. But also I can click on this assignment and see the that communication as well. So, and I can also resubmit this assignment as long as that window is still open. So maybe my instructors come in, and maybe as a teacher, I'm saying, hey, here's some feedback. Go ahead and resubmit this, right? See if we can improve the score a little bit, and go ahead and resubmit your assignment, okay? But here is where I can view those annotations. I have this view feedback button where I can come in and go ahead and view what my instructor had to say, okay? And so obviously my instructor had a lot to say on just the first page of my paper. But as a student, if I want to take this to heart and learn to grow from this, I can download all of these annotations, all right? And so I can download an annotated PDF copy for my records and begin to modify for a resubmit, or if this was a draft, and work on my final paper as well. So that's how the student can come in and begin to access their information. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and leave student view. And I want to point out a couple of areas that are also within the global navigation now, okay? And so just a couple of other things. One of those is the calendar, right? And so everyone has access to the calendar, students as well. So when you go to the calendar, you can have up to 10 calendars enabled at a time. Mine's still loading. I'm going to go ahead and turn off some of my calendars. That way I just have my personal calendar, right? I have a personal calendar and then my training course for today enabled. Notice that it pulls in all of this information that we've created, okay? So this assignment 1, career ambition, is on here 3 times because remember I differentiated those assignments. So this is the one for everyone else. This is the one for 2 students, and this is the one for 1 student. But I can click on this and begin to see the instructions that I have created. I can click on edit. I can click on the assignment itself and begin to go into the course. Let me see here. Here's my geology review assignment. This is a better example because I can begin to see all of this, all these instructions, right? This gives you a better look at the instructions and how they will appear when you have a long list of instructions. But also, let's say students are having problems on the 6th submitting and say, hey, I'm just having some issues. Can you give us an extra day? Absolutely. Well, instead of going in and editing this, I can go ahead and just click and drag this over to the 7th. And now, look at that. It went ahead and gave it to the 22nd. Let me go and move this back to the 7th. Interesting. It's making it go to the 22nd. I haven't talked yet today about internet goblins, but I firmly believe in internet goblins. There we go. I believe in internet goblins, just so y'all know. And sometimes they mess with live trainings. But anyways, so that is how you can just click and drag assignments around, okay? And so you can click and drag items within your calendar, right? And so just giving you that ability for modifying anything that has a due date on it. Also, you have an inbox that's available to you. Mine's a little sparse because no one has communicated with me, but I can come in and I can look at my sent messages. Remember, we talked about the scoring the less than messages, right? This is what I just sent about, I don't know, 20 minutes ago or so. And so it sent out these individual messages, okay? So Jerome, Estella, and Hannah all got individual messages, okay? And so this didn't put all 3 of them on a message. This sent out individual messages to these students, okay? And so you can go ahead and see when you've sent out a message. Now also on my inbox, any messages I get from students would be showing up here as well, but I can also filter out by course. So if I'm teaching multiple courses and getting a lot of inbox messages from my students, I can go ahead and filter out those messages and look at just specific courses. I can also compose messages from the inbox by clicking that little pencil icon. I'll just select a course and choose my course. We'll click the address book. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word for a second. I can choose my students, and then I can choose individual students, right? If I need to send an individual message, or I can do every student. I'll give them a message, upcoming class information, right? Now notice I also have the ability to send an individual message to each recipient as well. So in addition to message students who, if I'm sending out information that I don't necessarily want students to know that is going to the entire class, or if I'm sending it to multiple students and I want it to remain somewhat anonymous, I can go ahead and send individual messages to students as well, or each recipient, right? And so I can just compose the message here. Now, remember I had said earlier, you have access to the rich content editor within all of about 95% of Canvas. This is one of those places where you don't have that rich content editor experience. So if you put in any links, for example, in here, so if you wanted to give them information, right? So upcoming Zoom meeting, right? And so we'll get the link to a Zoom meeting, whenever we give them this link, that'll actually give them, it will change the link to be an active link, and I'll show you that here in a second. You can give them an attachment for inside the message, and then you also have the same media uploader tool, and so that'll just put that as an attachment as well. And when you click send, it'll just send out those individual messages, and I'll just show you that. Oh, it hasn't sent it out yet. Let me refresh my page. I'm going faster than the system. There it goes. So there it goes, and it just gives them that link as a it changes it for you. So that is just a little information on how you can go ahead and be messaging your course. Let me go back into my course really quick. I want to tell you one other thing that I just remembered. If we go into our modules for a second, if we go into a page, right? So I have this week 1 overview. So again, this is the idea of a content page. I'm going to edit this page. At the very bottom of a page, you have a couple of options, all right? You can choose who can edit this page. And so you can say teachers and students can edit this page, right? So that gives you the ability to have a wiki page, for example. So maybe you want students to go on a nature walk and report back what they've found, okay? And you can go ahead and make it so that they can come in and just edit this page, and they will be able to come in and just put in the information there, right? And so instead of actually submitting something for grade, they can just come in and edit this page. Now, by default, only teachers can edit pages. But what I love to do is add this to a student to do. And when we add this to a student to do, we can go ahead and say, so if this is going to be an overview and my course is starting on Monday, we can say at 8 o'clock a.m. on Monday, this is going to be on their student to-do list, all right? So whenever we add this to the student to-do, we are going to go back to student view and notice that there is my week 1 overview. So that's telling me that I have something to do. But in addition to that, it will be on my calendar as well. And so there it is on my calendar also. So that gives me that information as a student, okay? And so that's just a way for if you're using a content page and you want your students to have access to that. Now, I promise I'm not ignoring you all who keep asking about modules. I just needed to get through some information first. Moving modules into another course, all right? So you can't necessarily move a module from course to course, right? So if we click on more options, notice that we can't necessarily move to another course, okay? Now we can share to Commons, right? That is one way to do it. That would be more for, right, exactly. Thank you, sir, or ma'am. That is one way you do it. You can share it to Commons, and then you can go in to pull it. Now, what you can do is you can go ahead and make a course copy and copy it from course to course, and then just pull in that module, okay? And so the way to do that is if you go to Settings, and we're going to do Import Course Content, and we're going to do Copy a Canvas Course, and I'll just say Mastery, and you find the course that you want to import from, all right? And then we're going to do import specific content. And I'll run through this again, okay? And I'm going to do import. And then you would do select content. And then you would find your modules that you wanted to import. All right? And this will bring in the modules as well as the information with it. All right? So maybe I want to do module 1, intro to the class. And then you would just do select content and it'll bring it over. So again, to bring in the individual modules, okay, from course to course, we're going to go to our course settings in our course navigation. We're going to go to import course content. We are going to do copy a Canvas course, and we're going to search for a course. So find the course that has the module in it. All right, so go to a blank course that you want to pull the modules from, modules to, and then here where you're searching for a course, find the course where the modules are, and we'll say, this time I'll do a different course. I'll see if I can spell. Canvas training course, and then you would do select specific content, okay? And then you would do import, and then when it pulls it up, you do select content, and then you have access to your modules, all right? And so that's one way to do it. So let me just do this module 1 intro to the course, and I'll do select content, and we'll see what it looks like. Give it a second to run. Now when I click on modules, it has brought that whole module over for me. So this is that module 1 intro to the course that I just imported. Which I am going to delete. Oh, you are very welcome. You weren't the only one who asked, so that's one reason why I did not mind showing that. When you are done with your course, okay, you are complete with your course. I'm going to come back and show you on this course. When you have your course how you want it, right, you have this publish button at the very top, all right? Students cannot see your course until you hit publish. So just keep that in mind, all right? Just how they can't see this content until this content is published, they can't see your course until you hit this publish button. And so when you have your course created, when you have it ready to go, and you are ready for your students to access your course, you want to make sure you hit that publish button. And again, that publish button's on your course homepage there. Also, I mentioned earlier with that Growing with Canvas course, if you want to enroll into that course, here is the link for you to self-enroll into that Growing with Canvas course, okay? It'll be a great resource for you as you depart from here and as you want to expand your knowledge on Canvas. It'll be a great spot for you to begin to digest additional information. So yeah, go ahead and take that link and begin to enroll with and Growing with Canvas. So with that, I will say thank you to each of you. I do appreciate you. I appreciate for what you do for the teaching and learning at your district. I want to say to each of you, stay safe and stay well.